Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessino. This is not what I was supposed to be doing this morning or / afternoon for some of you guys. I was supposed to be talking about Ramsey, but somehow now I'm talking about William Saliba. So this is going to be another Jess Reacts where I give you, my unfiltered reaction to current Arsenal news and breaking news and things like that. So what I want to be able to do is give you my Jessica reaction, like just how I feel as a fan, somebody who really has a lot of high hopes for Saliba, and then try to give some perspective and try to, just end the stream on maybe a more calm note, because I think this can easily spiral out of control. And I'm not saying like anybody's reaction is wrong, but like we still don't know what's going to happen, right? So this is still kind of like speculation. But the breaking news out just 40 minutes ago is from Chris Wheatley, who's a very reliable journalist and for some people is regarded as the Arsenal mouthpiece. He says, "I'm told that William Saliba is assessing his options ahead of Ben White's likely move to Arsenal. The 20-year-old is expected to return for preseason training, but loan move is the probable outcome now. Newcastle, Nice, Marseille, and others want him." Football London has been told by multiple sources that Saliba could be sold this summer, despite initial suggestions that he will likely be given an opportunity to impress in his first team next season. So that's straight from Chris Wheatley. So look, my unfiltered reaction to this is, what the heck? Like, what's actually going on? Like, I'm trying to give the club the benefit of the doubt and see the positives in what we're trying to do, and just not, make conclusions about things until they happen. But the move for Ben White always signaled to me like, smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. It's just, if you bring in somebody like Ben White, you're bringing in a starting center back. And although, I was like, well, he could play right back, whatever. Ultimately, when you bring in somebody like that, if their main position is as a center back, they're going to come in and start. And I always had apprehensions about Saliba saying, like, hey, like I played first team football, was a starter at Nice and said Etienne, and I'll just go ahead and send on Arsenal's bench for who knows how long. And a loan move to me was always, like a sure exit for Saliba. This situation is so weird. Like, it's very, very weird. It's been mishandled from start to finish, and or from the very start till now. And I just don't know how to make sense of it, because William Saliba is one of the most like sought after, highly regarded young French center backs like in Europe. And we have yet to see him play in a competitive match for Arsenal Football Club. And he's been here for 2 years. He's been out on loan for both years, and he's somebody that I feel like deserves a chance to show that he can do it. in the Premier League, but it doesn't feel like he's going to get that chance. Like it never felt like it. Arteta, not like he's been cold, but he hasn't been very loving towards Saliba. He hasn't really said any positive things about him. So it just never really felt right. From the moment that they didn't let him go, to the French Cup final or whatever, you knew something wasn't right. And then, they're haggling over a $2.5 million fee, whatever. And then he doesn't go. And then the paperwork slips through the cracks with the supposed loan move. And he wastes 3 to 4 months of his career sitting on Arsenal's bench doing nothing, and then ends up at Nice and does great, So this has been an absolute nightmare. And there's no way that you can look at this, regardless to if he stays at Arsenal or not. The handling of William Saliba has been catastrophic, in my opinion. It's not a good sign, for young players that want to come to Arsenal or think about coming to Arsenal, to see that, the way that you're treated is just kind of like just whatever, paperwork slips through the cracks, no big deal. You want to play in your French Cup final? No, you don't get to do that because of 2.5 million and all this type of stuff. So it's just disheartening. I just don't really know how to rationalize it in a way where it makes it feel okay. But I never felt like the relationship was okay. And I've yet to see Arteta salvage a relationship that seems like it was broken. It feels very much like if you're not in, you're out, kind of thing. And, Saliba making comments, like with Lacazette on the Arsenal, like literal Arsenal website, where Lacazette saying like something, something, something. And Saliba basically says, well, I haven't played for Arsenal, so I'm not really an Arsenal player. When he said that, I was like, there's issues here. Then when he gets his loan move, you have Guendouzi and Fofana saying that he's free now, as if he was like some sort of like captive. And then he does more interviews, and it doesn't, even though people are like, well, it could be that, like, it's very clear to me that there's a strained relationship between William Saliba and Arteta / Arsenal. And I was never convinced that he was going to come back to preseason and get a chance. I tried to believe it, but, I know you'll try to rationalize it and say, well, maybe Chris Wheatley is wrong. Maybe this is agent, talk, trying to do whatever. But the reality is that Chris Wheatley is a very reliable source, and he's pretty much the mouthpiece at Arsenal. And I don't see him taking Saliba's agent's, words and trying to twist it into something for Saliba to get what he wants. This feels like it's coming straight from the club. And so, you guys, I don't really know. Like, I think Saliba is such a good player. I think he deserves a chance to show that he can or cannot do it. But at the same time, once you try to bring in somebody like Ben White, I don't think Saliba at his age would ever, accept just sitting on the bench for Arsenal Football Club. Even if there are opportunities to start, he can pretty much start anywhere else that he wants to go. If he goes to Nice, Marseille, Newcastle, he starts, so it's just a weird situation. So let's see what you guys are saying in the comment section. Let me know. I want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, everything. Let's just make sure that we're respectful to each other and all those great and wonderful things. Matt G says, please make sense of it. Jess, I'm trying to. I really, really am. It just feels like he never felt like somebody that Arteta was keen to use or bring in or anything. There's been multiple chances to try to integrate him into the side, where you can't really say, like, is Rob Holding so good that you couldn't have tried using William Saliba this season? No, but every time you try to rationalize it, people try to rationalize it. He's not ready. He's not this, he's not that. But ultimately, I just think it comes down to he's not an Arteta player. Arteta doesn't want him. And so he'll move on from him. He wants something different. El Jefe says the Frenchman in the dressing room exposed Arteta. Now he wants to sell him. Okay, not sure. Sean says, I will not get caught up in reports until it's done. Of course, we always have to take into consideration that this is just, nothing has happened yet, but this does not look good. Matt G says, at this point, I don't care if Saliba is the best or worst defender in the world. The way he's been treated by the club is frankly unforgivable. It has not been good at all. Olivier says, what a controversial issue at Arsenal. I mean, pretty much. I mean, this is just going on and on and on and on and on. And so at this point, I feel like it would almost be better just to, if you don't want him, don't, you know, hold him any longer. Just sell him and move on so we can just move on. It won't be the end of us hearing about him because, when things like this happen, he'll go somewhere else and be amazing and he'll constantly be thrown back in our face. But loaning him back out and then having to deal with this again next summer when he wants to leave, whatever, it just doesn't feel like the right thing. I think he had a really good season at Nice. If you want to sell him, just fricking do it and just move on, because this is just, it's getting to the point where it's just Sillyville. Sean says Saliba and his team are doing what's right by him. They're just making sure he's in their plans, even if White is signed. I agree with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Saliba should, I don't think like any other 19-year-old, I'm looking at it like, so if I'm looking at it from an Arsenal perspective, he's 19 years old. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have to be starting for Arsenal Football Club, whatever. It'd be nice to have a more experienced person in Saliba sharing time on that right-hand side. But from Saliba's perspective, he's good enough to start somewhere, so he doesn't actually need to be dealing with this, So if his agent wants him to get playing time and move him on, or get Arsenal to, to confirm what his place will be like in the team, then I don't blame them for that, because Saliba could easily be doing preseason with somebody else and moving on with his life. JMS says, only way I'd be okay with a loan is if Saliba was given a new contract before any loan, as a show of faith for him long term and preventing the possibility of him forcing an exit next year. It's just sad. Yeah, for sure. It is sad. And that's a good point, that players need reassurance about where they sit and where they fit into the plans. Like, that's just so obvious. It's just so obvious. Like, you need to give them some reassurance. And I just don't feel like he's being given that. And then when you look and you're like, oh, they're buying another $50 million center back. When you do that, you're going to be on the bench. So you need to know what the plan is, especially with no Europe. If Ben White is fit the entire season, which he was pretty much fit the entire last season for Brighton. When are you going to play? How are you going to, you need guaranteed playing time. And why would I sit Arsenal's bench for 10 starts next season in the Carabao Cup / FA Cup and whatever, when I could just start somewhere else? Yo-Yo says, I feel bad for Saliba, should have never joined this club. I just wish we would have treated him better. Mahilali says he's doing everything to force him out but he gave Holding a new contract. That's the process we're expecting to trust. I mean, I think what we have to remember is that most managers, when they come in, they tend to choose players that they want and choose players that they don't want. And, if this was Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho, coaches that we feel comfortable with, we wouldn't, if they didn't want Saliba, we wouldn't question it. But because it's Arteta and there's a lack of trust between the fan base and Arteta and feeling like he's the right man, we question every single thing that he does. So for me, it just has to work out. If you sell Saliba, you have to sell him for at least what you bought him for. And the person that you bring in we need to forget about Saliba when this guy hits the pitch. If you loan Saliba out and you loan him to the Premier League at that, and he starts doing well, which he will, and Ben White or whoever comes in is a joke, then it's just going to continue on. So when you make choices like this, if they do make a choice like this, it is still up in the air. But if they were to loan or sell Saliba, I'm telling you right now, Ben White needs to hit the ground running, and we need to forget Saliba. From the moment his foot hits the pitch, against Brentford. AK Gunner again. AK Gunner, yeah, let's just go over the news one more time. If you're just joining us, there's about 65 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Multiple sources state that Saliba could be sold. This is from Chris Wheatley, despite initial suggestions that he was likely to be given an opportunity to impress in the first team next season. Yeah, so that's what's going on right now. Again, it's not confirmed like he's going anywhere, but that does not look good. It's not coming from somebody like a random source. It's coming from Chris Wheatley, somebody who is close to the club, somebody that I don't think would, be in cahoots with Saliba's agent to flip things around, if that makes sense. Um, Sean says, no need to get emotional over this. I mean, if anything, I feel like what we should do as a fan base, or like just what I will do in the future, is I don't get attached to players very often. It's not really my thing. I think with Saliba, I let myself get a little bit too, invested in it. I thought, he's such a good player and so exciting for the future, especially because in that time we had been signing such terrible players. Like, so to see the club invest in a young player, young French player with so much promise, I got attached to him very quickly. And then as I did not see him, and then I continued to have to watch Mustafi make mistakes, Socrates make mistakes, David Luiz make mistakes, Rob Holding make mistakes, it just compounded my anxiety around getting Saliba back in this team. And then all the way that everything has unfolded, it just compounds things. So I think ultimately, if the club was just doing things normally and it didn't feel so convoluted and disorganized and ridiculous, it wouldn't feel so bad. It's not. I think it's just the way it's happening. I love Saliba, and like if he came in and the coach said he's not good enough and we just sold him, then it'd be fine. It'd be a little bit different. But because of the way they jerked him around, the way that they're jerking us around, it's just that's more what I'm upset about, because it's not a good look. It's not a good look. Van Auger says Saliba has to play. What's going on? I don't know. And the worst part about it is that I kind of got those tickets to Florida to see him play. I'll never do this again. The last player I was like attached to was Ashley Cole. So Billy says, I think for his career's sake, he is better. It's better for him to leave on a permanent if Arteta doesn't rate him at all. I can't understand why he can't even give him his chance. Part of me this is just, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it because it's just going to feel like a conspiracy theory. But, it feels forced not to give him playing time and to just try him out. It feels like it's more of a forced thing than a natural thing. It feels kind of forced not to integrate him in. So Ayup says, hopefully he plays in preseason. I hope. If he doesn't, so wasted. Ayup says, imagine being a young French player who loves Arsenal and seeing how Guendouzi and Saliba have been treated. Arteta could seriously do long-term damage to the French market, to Arsenal FC. These are things like soft factors that I think about as well, Ayup. Like, what do we look like to young players that, would potentially be interested in coming to Arsenal? We have such a big presence and fan base, and a lot of, young French players love us. It will eventually dwindle because we're not really. It's not the same. I mean, Thierry Henry is pretty much holding us on by a thread, like Vieira and stuff like that. So it's been a while since we've had that French presence in our team, but it's so strong and so built into the fabric that young French players just still have an affinity for Arsenal. But that will run out. That will run out. A couple more of these, even maybe if Saliba goes wrong, Guendouzi goes wrong, and they go on to have successful careers, I just can't see it. And I think about stuff like that. What does this look like to players that want to come in, like young players? From an English perspective, you're probably thinking it's fine because Saka and ESR, but French players, it's looking a little suspect, isn't it? Ivy says, so 27 million wasted already. I mean, if they sell him, they have to sell him for that. They have to sell. They at least get the money back for him. Deborah Ducky says, I can see this turning into a Leno Emmy issue. Every time Ben makes a bad pass, the Saliba comments will come out. I mean, exactly. I mean, that's essentially what's going to happen. Like, if Saliba leaves, if he leaves on a loan or a permanent, no matter what happens, Ben White, even if it's a simple error, will be like, it will be just, it'll be overreacted. Like, everything will just be so over the top about it, so we're going to be in for another year of bullshit, unless we're winning games. And that's my thing. It's like, if you're going to do these things, you're going to make these huge, these huge decisions, which the club needs to make. You need to make sure that whatever you do in return works out, Adam says, I still think he's in Arteta's plans. Arteta spoke about protecting him when out on loan. And I think this is the same again by providing him minutes in season where opportunities will be low. I mean, it doesn't feel that way. I mean, from what Chris Wheatley is saying, but again, this could just be, the only thing I can do to make it make sense, which to me is not really how I feel, but maybe if you just want an alternative perspective, devil's advocate, is that maybe this is agent talk from Saliba's people to try to get Arsenal to confirm how they're going to use him next season. That's the only thing I can think of. That's what George has tweeted that on Twitter. He feels like that's what this is about. Personally, because of Chris Wheatley's connection to the club, I don't think that's it. But if you want some alternative, make it make sense type of thing, maybe it's that. I don't know. Hopefully. But nothing is done yet. I was supposed to be talking about Ramsey and give you guys my just unfiltered Ramsey, would you want him on a free? This is not what I want to be talking about right now. I mean, I of course, I love talking to you guys, but this is not it. Lindsay M says, can't believe his agent is that dude from the 40-year-old virgin. Josh says, no one can tell me Holding deserves the minutes more than Saliba. Bowie the cat says, no one really knows what's going on behind the scenes exactly. And yeah, we just have to hope, gosh, that picture of Aubameyang is horrible that you have on your profile. But yeah, hopefully. Dublin Gooner says, if he's loaned out for another season, what will be left on his contract? Let's take a look. Let me take a look. Let me look for it. Contract expires in 2024. June 30th, 2024. So he still has time on his deal. I mean, if they loan him out, maybe it's some long-term plan, long-term plan to make sure that he gets the type of minutes that are, substantial enough for him to be good for us next season. Not the coming season, but the season after. I'm just throwing things out there. John says the reports are just reports. Things can change. Exactly. Yo-Yo says Gooners are a toxic bunch. Storylines and narratives feed into new ones daily. Olivier says staying 8th with no Europe. That's why they won't come. Sean says most of the players in this generation don't support Arsenal. They grew up in an era where others are more successful. I would say that that's true, but not true in France. I read something the other day. It's like Arsenal still has a very good connection in France with young French players. No, it won't last forever, but there's a reason why you see young French players with, Arsenal jerseys and stuff like that. It's because it's built into the fabric and the culture there that Arsenal had some of the best French players in their team at a certain time, and they did special things, so that won't last forever, like I said, but I mean, you still see that in players now, but it definitely won't last forever. AK Gunner says Adu is the technical director. He needs to intervene in situations like this. Saliba is a big investment and an asset that Arteta should be instructed to use him. Arteta, the value destructor. I mean, we have spoken about this before, about value destruction. A lot of people got on me about Guendouzi and said his value decreasing at the magnitude and the decline in which it did was solely on Guendouzi. And I said, no, it was not. It was the club and Guendouzi in conjunction, and some of the things that the club did in his time, like being at Arsenal, is not what you do with a young player that you want to be able to sell. And then I said, let's just see what happens with Saliba. That was exactly what I said in that show, because let's just see what happens with Saliba. let's see how they work this, because ultimately, if you spend 27 million on a young player, you need to get at least that, if not more. So the goal is not to destroy his value from now on. We need to keep him out of the press, not, destroy his value any further. Not, if you're not going to use him at all, don't keep him at Arsenal, give him a loan early, tell the media that it's a part of a long-term strategy. Lie, do whatever you have to do. Don't go out there and say he has a bad attitude or let it get leaked out that you guys had a fight or anything like that. These are things that the club can control if they get ahead of it early. So again, let's see what happens with Saliba. If, similarly to Guendouzi, we are unable to sell Saliba for what we got him for, we need to have a serious conversation about value destruction. C. Wilder says Saliba has done something behind the scenes, no question. Otherwise, none of this makes sense. I wonder what he did. It's been reported from, some people. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but Saliba did not act very professionally when he was not able to play in the French Cup final. So, and I do want to say that I thought, the way that he was on Arsenal.com and saying Arsenal.com and saying that he wasn't an Arsenal player because, he's never played for Arsenal. The way Fofana and Guendouzi and Pepe were on Twitter or Instagram talking about free Saliba and all this kind of stuff. I think those things don't help his cause. But at the same time, this all started because you didn't let him go to the French Cup final. And then you let the paperwork slip through for him getting a loan. And then everything started to deteriorate from there. So yes, it couldn't start with Saliba and, maybe not doing things right. But at the same time, it's up to the club to protect the value of the player regardless. You can't just say, well, you're destroying your own value because they're our asset. You know what I mean? Let's Talk Arsenal says, I think this is agent talks as Arsenal have been linked with the Ben White move. I mean, it can be, but at the same time, if Saliba's agents are contacting Chris Wheatley, a very reliable source through Arsenal, they need to confirm and figure out what the path is for Saliba. You don't come out and do that if you know what's going on. So Arsenal just need to get ahead of it. If it's something that, Saliba's people want to know, how you're going to use him. If you're not going to give him this amount of playing time, then we need to do a loan. Do it sooner rather than later. Do it before it becomes something where people are leaking things to the press and it's becoming a storyline and a narrative throughout the summer. They just need to nip it in the bud if that's what it is. John Doe says Saliba also said in an interview with Righty that playing for Arsenal was a dream that became a reality. I mean, yeah, tears in my freaking eyes, man. I love that. Billy says, but he was playing in preseason match, Jess. So it's not true. Arteta just doesn't think he's ready. I mean, yeah, he played against MK Dons. I remember that game, but so are we saying that we couldn't have allowed him to stay and play behind David Luiz and give him holdings minutes instead of, you know what I mean? I get what we're saying. There's a lot of ways to rationalize it as Arteta has this long-term development plan for Saliba, and he just wants to make sure that he's ready. I understand that, but there's always going to be distrust within the Arsenal fan base and this whole process because they have not done the right things up until now. So we're always going to be kind of like, oh, are they doing the right things until we see them do it? We can't ignore the fact that this was handled horribly. It really has been. So if he's not ready and there's a long-term development, idea for him, then hopefully it manifests itself in a good, outcome. But right now it's just looking like, because of the way it's been handled from the very beginning, we're still making mistakes, but again, nothing has happened yet. George's opinion says, I'm waiting to see what actually happens. No panicking. Nope, we don't have to panic. We don't have to panic. We don't have to panic yet. And even my thing is, even if they decide to sell him or loan him, just don't let it become something that destroys his value. Don't make it something where, he feels like, you guys aren't making it a priority. You guys are stopping his progression. Don't do anything like that, because then we'll be dealing with another player out there in the media saying things that we don't want them saying about Arsenal Football Club. Like, just nip it in the butt. Let's see. Don Giovanni says, pretending there is a long-term plan for Saliba is complete wish casting. I mean, I'm just trying to give those alternatives, you know what I mean? Just trying to give those alternatives, because, I don't know what's going on, to be honest. It doesn't feel right. It's never felt right. Yo-Yo says, the Saint Etienne fee is BS because Arsenal would have been aware of such payments beforehand when the contract was drawn in the first place. Stop believing club propaganda and spin. Olivier says, we make it horrible by talking like that. Mistake was the loan last year to Nice late, but it turned out good for him. Look, all I'm saying is that, I mean, if you can't say that we didn't make mistakes. We did. We allowed him to sit on our bench for 3 to 4 months and not get him the loan on time. And that manifested in him going in the media and saying things that just kind of exacerbated the whole entire thing. So that started with Arsenal. That didn't start with William Saliba. Young players are going to make mistakes. They're going to do things out of turn. They're going to be upset when they don't get to play in the French Cup final. These things are freaking normal. The idea that the players should be like perfect angels, that's not it. It's up to the club to be the grown-ups in the situation and make sure that they smooth it over. It's just, if they had smoothed it over, make sure he went out on loan. None of like all the extra stuff that happened in between the time where he didn't go to the cup final and missed out on a loan to him actually going to Nice. That's where the mistakes happened. So it's not that they wanted to loan him out. It's the optics of the way that things are being handled at Arsenal Football Club. That's the issue, really. And, I don't see other clubs in these situations. And that's because nobody gives us the benefit of the doubt, because we don't deserve it, because we haven't been running the club properly in a long time. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you get the benefit of the doubt when you start doing things the right way. So we'll see what happens with Saliba. He may stay and play behind Ben White and they share minutes. He could go out on loan. He could be sold. Just in general, just handle it quickly. Don't let it manifest or like spiral out of control. Don't wait until the end of the transfer window. Just let him do preseason somewhere else. Don't make it like continue on, because we need to start out the season with like no drama. Our team doesn't do well with drama. We don't, so we just need to nip it in the butt. You know what I mean? All right, you guys, that's going to be it for this Just Reacts. There's about 75 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm probably going to move the Ramsey show because I was going to react to Ramsey on a free and Torreira to Lazio. I think I'm going to move that to tomorrow because and I have some other things I need to take care of, and this kind of like took that spot. But at 2 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. UK time, we will be doing a catching up with. That's my new series that I'm doing, where I catch up with some of your favorite podcasters and content creators on YouTube. And so I'm actually going to be doing a catching up with Tucci Gunners, and we're going to actually be doing an England edition, where we'll be like, doing a match reaction for the England match against the Czech Republic. We'll be talking about the British core at Arsenal, as well as, kind of deciding whether or not Maddison and White are worth the cash. So make sure you guys come back for that. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that I gave you guys some different perspectives. Let's not freak out just yet, but I'll be back at 10 p.m. UK time, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.